Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is the Aspen City Council regular meeting for April 23rd, 2024. That's a call to order. Could we have a roll call for attendance, please?
Councillor Doyle.
Here.
Councillor Guth.
Here.
Councillor Howenstein.
Here.
Councillor Rose.
Here.
Mayor Tory.
Here as well. We are starting just an hour early this evening, just for consideration for some family and religious observance. So we will start our meeting with citizen comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address council on items not scheduled for a public hearing. We do ask that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes so everybody has a fair and equal opportunity to speak. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment this evening? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to council table. This is an opportunity for council members' comments tonight. Council members? Bill?
Thanks very much. Thanks to everyone who agreed to move up this meeting. Tonight is the second night of Passover. And Passover is a holiday where we celebrate the freedom of Jewish people. And it's an interesting and challenging and frankly, scary year for us. So it's resonating differently with me this year than it ever has before. Sorry to get personal, but just wanted to share my appreciation for you allowing me to celebrate it. I also wanted to share my disappointment with something that I saw at the Accra information booth across from Paradise Bakery yesterday. A pretty amateurish and offensive sign was put up in the window there, telling people that it was too expletive loud and that tourists should call some phone number to get information. I happened to observe some tourists trying to get information when that sign was all that was greeting them. Really disappointing to see that, and this is not picking on Accra, but I think they should do better in representing our community and providing a service to our visitors. Thanks.
Bill, could you elaborate on that sign? I'm not sure I know.
I'd be happy to show you a photo of it. I don't want to. I mean, it said too expletive loud, gone to Maui, call this phone number. And they couldn't even spell the word "to" right, which was quite interesting.
That's difficult to miss.
I'm glad you clarified. I thought you were just referring to that it was closed.
No.
Your detail in your message to me, I did not understand the nature of the sign.
Perhaps I should have circled that terrible sign in the window.
Did not zoom in on what you sent me until just now.
What is loud?
Well, adjacent construction, but too bad is my response to that.
Obviously, they do not have a communications team.
Other comments? John?
Yeah. I just wanted to make a brief comment about the news over the last couple of weeks. Aspen, Picken County set a record for the highest real estate sale 2 weeks ago of $70 million, and then more recently, last week, for $108 million. And I just wanted to comment on the fact that I think the reason that we continue to set records for real estate prices, not only in the state but across the country, is because we have a very desirable place to live here. And a large part of that is due to decisions made at the county and at the city level in decades past that have created better open space programs, addressed employee housing issues, public transportation, et cetera. So I want to give a hand to our staff and to county staff for being active participants in making Aspen, Picken County a great place to live and work and raise a family. And that is why our real estate prices are through the roof.
Thanks, John. Ward?
I had no comments, but on a lighter note, I'll just react to what Bill said. This goes back quite several decades probably when Tom Mix was in town, and after the end of the ski season, they had a radio ad that said, not going anywhere for the off season, staying here and watching Mogul break on Ajax.
and come shop at Tom Mix.
No comments this evening, thanks. Which will bring us to agenda amendments. I don't see any city manager's comments tonight. Sarah?
Thank you. I have a few more for you tonight than usual. First, I just wanted to give you a heads up that work has started on the Maroon Creek Trail. So if you haven't been in the area, there's been some tree removal that has already started. We're in the infant stages of what will be a somewhat cumbersome and difficult construction process along Maroon Creek Road. But we're excited because this will really provide another route for the community and visitors towards the Maroon Bells, as well as help separate traffic, general pedestrian and cyclist traffic out of the school campus, which has been a long time goal of the school district in the city to get that adjustment done. So there has been some news coverage in March. We're hopeful that as things are changing out there, we'll see some additional coverage. We also have had the crews on site have flyers they can hand out to anyone coming by who asks anything. We have done media releases, and we've done specific stakeholder engagement along the way with parties along that route, and also recognizing, managing when bus service starts to the Maroon Bells, how this all ties together. So just as a heads up, if you get any more questions along the way, don't hesitate to feel free to send them to the project website or to reach out to Matt Kuhn or John Spees over in our Parks and Open Space Department. They would be more than happy to help out anyone who's got questions.
Can I suggest that we put up some kind of project sign specific about what's going on? I think that'll, especially as people come in and are used to making that bike ride.
Happy to look at it on the other side of Maroon Creek Road. I don't want anyone going into the construction zone where there's no pathway right now.
No, of course, just saying like, this is what's happening. For more information, go to this website.
Sure.
or whatever, or just like, we're constructing the new trail that will connect the roundabout to the arc. I'm not thinking through the messaging, but I think just like telling people what it is, and not a widening of the road or something that someone's imagination might come up with, could be really valuable this summer.
So we planned on hanging banners on the Maroon Creek Bike Path Bridge.
Perfect.
Is that,
Yeah, that's
is that
along
in line with what you're talking
Definitely.
about? Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yep, the comms team has been on top of it.
Thanks.
Any other questions on that project? I just want to shed a big thanks to all of our partners. We've had a lot of partners in getting this project moving forward, and so we're really appreciative to have them at the table and going through a bit of these growing pains, if you will, together with us to make this ultimate improvement. Another thing that I wanted to just share with the council is that we have some layers on our GIS that I'm not sure you're aware of, and so if Tyler could share his screen. I just wanted you to be aware of this tool that you and any member of the community has. Could you close me, please, so they can see all the tabs? And this is important in understanding what's happening in the permitting world here in the city. So currently what you see up is all the building permits that have been issued are green dots, and all of those that are currently under review in the city are the orange squares. And we have tried to outline the different right-of-way restriction zones, because that affects when certain types of activity can occur under permits. But I want you all to be aware of this tool so that the community has some relationship to understanding the volume of activity that is continuing to come through the door at these high rates. You can actually click on, for example, in building, can you just click on any of them? Okay, it's going to test us here. There you go. So, right, it gives you enough information down to what is the exact permit, who's the applicant, what type of work, what is going on. I think this is really helpful in neighborhoods for them when they just have some curiosity about what's happened down the street from me. And so I just want the community to know that all of this is accessible 24/7 to them. And here you can see we have building permits, we have right-of-way and encroachments, construction mitigation plan impacts there. Under trees, just about what's going on with potential tree removal, tree trimming permits that have been issued. Parking reservation, I think, is another really important one, if we could hit that, Tyler. This one shows you where parking is currently being reserved, i.e. removed from general public use, whether it be from construction impact or one of the short-term activation options that are sometimes offered in the core that businesses take advantage of, rather. So I just wanted you to have some understanding, again, of those type of resources that the community has at their fingertips.
Sarah, I've been on the GIS site and I'm amazed by the amount of information is there. Could you walk us through exactly how to get to the GIS on the web?
Yeah, certainly. Let's hop back there in just a minute. But could you hit mall and sidewalk? When we get back to it, when you hit malls and sidewalks. So let's go back. Oh, you've got them both up. Great. I just want to show this. This is not going to show a lot right now because of the time of year we're in. But as we do mall leases for restaurants in particular, you'll start seeing all of this get populated. We're also, I'm just going to be honest with you, we've had some unusual requests come in for right-of-way use this summer for activations that we're just sorting through that are not, typical requests. To see if we're able to administratively facilitate those or not. So this will fill up as we get into the next 60 days here with information. So Tyler went to just aspen.gov and he clicked on the link to GIS, and Map Aspen is what you want. So you can get to it a couple different ways on the website. So search engine, if you do drop down to I want, those are all options. And then these are all different types of mapping layers that we have in the system. And particularly, there's the one for applications and permits. We, at the city staff level and in the design community, use these layers a ton to help us. It's a great way to share information back and forth and be self-service. So that takes you to this screen right here that we were at of all the active and permits under review.
Sorry, sir, could you go back on aspen.gov's homepage? How do we?
Yeah, can you go all the way back, Tyler? Thanks. So he went to government, and then he went to GIS and mapping as a department.
Got it.
So I hope you use this tool as you're trying to manage constituent questions. And please let us know. I will tell you it's not live time updates, just to be clear. There is a little bit of delay from when a permit moves from review to issued, as well from issued to closed. Or it could be that the project is substantially complete. It has a CO, but maybe it's only a conditional CO, so it will show up still active on here until that punch list is finished out to get final CO. So it might look like something's completely done and it's old data. It's really because there's still a few things on the paperwork side potentially that are still en route to close out that building permit.
I just want to say thanks for bringing this up. This is an incredible tool, and I'm going to spread the word among people I know. I think it'll save staff a tremendous amount of time having to answer questions over the phone.
It's amazing how much information is publicly available.
Do you know how many building permits are under review right now? Does it have a count?
I have it another way, so I can email it to you tomorrow. It'd be better if I pull that from Salesforce than trying to pull the dots here. The Salesforce data will be more up to date than this interactive map.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. A lot of people question some of the time frame that permits are issued in, but this kind of gives a good, clear picture of the volume that they're dealing with. So some of those timelines might be dependent on this. But it's interesting if you look at this, and can you zoom in a little bit, Tyler? Thanks. Just looking at kind of the mix and the percentage mix of permits that are already issued versus under review and closed. It's an interesting snapshot. I'd love to know the numbers on some of it.
Sure. I think the key thing for the community knows almost every single block in town either has an active permit or one in review. There's a few exceptions to that. But for the most part, everyone has one of these real close to where they're staying.
And Sarah, does this include all types of permits, including minor electrical permits, roofing,
Yes,
et
so
cetera?
it's everything from a small permit to a project that's going to take multi-years. We don't distinguish from that into reporting the activity because it is all permitted activity.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to hear that information you just gave too, because I have been telling people that I think there's a building project in every block in the city. So it's nice to know I haven't been
It's
just
close.
making it up.
The attorney has a question.
What's the distinction between the green that has a black outline around it versus just a green dot?
You mean that sort of backwards C?
No, there's some that are black squares
Oh,
with a green dot in it.
I will double check. I see them, what you're talking about. I'll have to double check what that is. Do you know, Tyler, off the top of your head?
I think it's the same address having a closed permit or a permit under review and a permit issued.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just curious.
We'll confirm that for you, but we should have that in the, on the left for the ease of understanding this data. Okay, so again, not real time, but generally pretty accurate of picture of what's happening. And with the right-of-way having opened up just a few weeks ago, right, there's going to be some spikes in activity and people trying to push things through before it closes again here in June. Any other questions on this?
Thank you.
Okay. Just another thing I wanted to bring to the council's attention is that we are at the staff level just about finished with the 2024 community survey questions. The core questions are a base of questions that are used year to year for comparison. But there is often, every year, we can add a few questions that might be of assistance for policy direction on particular matters. And so I just wanted to inquire with the council whether you would have any interest in having a custom question or two added in the survey on any of the policy matters you're working on this year or related to your goals. They can't be open-ended questions, just to be clear, they're forced choice with the way the surveying system works. But I just wanted to make the council aware of that opportunity. In terms of timeline, that's something we would want to get sorted out here this month. Or if I'm not hearing any interest from a majority of council, I'm going to go ahead and have the surveying start here in about another week or so, depending upon your direction from today.
I am interested in providing some specific questions.
Does the council as a whole is really where I need to start?
Nothing from me singularly, but I'm willing to hear anybody else's requests of questions that might want to go on.
Ditto on Tori's comment.
Same, take it as it comes.
What I'm thinking of specifically, sorry, Sam, if I interrupt.
No, you're good.
What I'm thinking of specifically is making sure there's some specific comments asking our community how they feel about the level of service provided by the Community Development Department. Is that funny?
Yeah, it made me laugh. You did make me laugh.
I'm not sure I understand the humor in it, but
say that I think it's wise to have questions like that so you can know one way or another whether it's a small minority or more so, because these questionnaires only go out to City of Aspen residents, correct?
Right, there's a few qualifiers to be eligible to participate in the survey. And what I would suggest to you, that particular question that Councilor Guth just raised, I think the most important feedback comes from directly interacting with constituents who use the service. Because the wording, what the question would be on a general survey with this is more of a growth question. How do you feel about growth? Not about the services, because most people who are surveyed, there's probably not a statistically significant number that would come from the randomization to be able to make that question come back statistically significant. I'd rather get you conclusive information rather than inconclusive.
Well,
It's too
I guess I was
specific is
thinking
what
about
I'm
it
getting
more about community expectations, and I think many if not all members of our community need the services of the Community Development Department at some point in their time in Aspen. Whether that's a minor remodel to their affordable housing unit or to build a new house for their family, and or a land use matter or something else. And I think that there could be some very informative answers if we asked a question along the lines of, since you'd like forced choice, what's an acceptable review time in your mind for a building permit? And you could, 3 answers, 4 answers, 5 minutes, whatever you need in terms of number of choices. I would like to get some feedback from our community on how what the community thinks is acceptable. And it doesn't need to be as open-ended as my first comment. We can get more targeted. I don't have experience in this type of surveying work, but I do think it's important to get that feedback from our community.
I know it's been a council goal and directive to increase the efficiency of that whole process. And I know we've had some shortages in staffing. I know that we've approved funding for additional FTEs. I think that, Bill, oftentimes I feel these questions are like push-pulls. How it's phrased dictates what kind of response you get. So I'd like to see a progress report on where ComDev is on all of the directives the City Council has given for FTEs. I think it's more important for us to know and internally working on improving the process than the general public's perception.
I appreciate the sentiment. We're talking about the city's second biggest department, if I'm not mistaken, after only parks. And in my view, the service levels, and again, I'm going to continue saying this because I think that I know there are people who take this personally, and it is not personal, but the levels of service and the response times provided by the Community Development Department in the services that they provide to the public are not acceptable, in my opinion. And I would like to know from our community at large whether that's a shared opinion or not.
So the survey does ask by various services, what is your experience with it and your impression of it? So that type of general information, again, is already captured with it. The rich data in these processes come from stakeholder engagement, and it's something that council's already authorized funding for this year that we're in a process of now. And so what I'd suggest to you is that you have multiple data points to help guide both at the administrative level and the policy level to help you with that. So I want you to know, I'll do whatever you want, but I do need clarity about whether, right now I have 3 of you that said you do not want any custom questions from the council table. And I just want to make sure I have clarity if that is indeed the direction we're headed.
I guess my counter argument to what Sarah just said would be, just because someone hasn't ever interacted with the building or community development department or hasn't in a long time doesn't mean they won't need to at some point in the future. So they may have no experiences to share that are recent or current. But that doesn't mean that they don't need to replace their bathtub with a walk-in shower because of some physical disability that has come up in their life, or a plethora of other reasons. And again, I would like to understand what the community at large's opinion is on how long these things should take and what's acceptable in their eyes.
So I would need to see this survey and what questions are already in it for me to support or not support some question along this lines. I'd be interested in our other survey opportunities. When do we try to get some of that public feedback on any department, not just ComDev, but our recreation facilities, our parks and such, our police department? I'm not specific to our ComDev. I'd be interested in community sentiment around service levels everywhere, not just ComDev. But again, not knowing this survey, how it's set up or how it's worded or what questions are already in there, I can't really say that I support this singular question at this time. But I'm willing to learn more about it, so I'd love to maybe talk with you, Sarah, about the survey and see what information we're getting there and see where we get other customer feedback about our service levels across our organization. That's where, I can't really, at this table right now, I can't really support Bill's request without more information. So,
Yeah, my position is I want to see what effort and what progress has been made and is being made and planned to be made on council directives to improve that entire process. So at this point, I don't support a general question on the survey for targeting any particular department's performance.
So I want to be clear, the whole survey is part of the reason that we have the survey is for that purpose. And
It's
so
been
that will
identified.
happen. However, the specificity about review times and things like that are not built into it because we do want to know general impressions of services. The richest data when it comes to this issue that the council is trying to tackle around the review services comes from that very specific stakeholder engagement, which is underway. And so I don't want to muddy the two for staff, so to speak, and that they each have a really important role. And I will, again, defer to whatever the council wishes. This is not the only topic you could consider for custom question. I've got two of you for sure that are saying no. I could just use some clarity here to wrap this piece up before I move on in my comments.
Guess the last comment I would make, why this is something that is unique and maybe warrants customization, is that this is the one department that not everyone in the community interacts with on a frequent basis. I mean, we're so fortunate to have I think a police department that even when you don't need them in an emergency, you're interacting with them in this community and you get to know some of them. I think that's really true of the Parks Department because of the wonderful facilities that we have and the people that we meet as we're utilizing those facilities. The list goes on. I think the city manager's office would be the other thing that sort of falls along with community development, but I don't think it's as impactful on the lives of community members as community development services could be. So I think that's the one thing I'd ask you to consider is this is something that everyone will need at some point in life, some more frequently and intensely than others. But I think it's really important, and I do think it warrants understanding community-wide expectations on the service levels.
John?
I just want to point out that it's been a point of frustration for a lot of citizens for many years with the building department. I'm acquainted with the issue intimately, as it turns out. But when I looked at the map that was up there 15 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and see that nearly every single block in our city is under some form of construction or about to be, I understand that the process is going to take some time. And while we have given ComDev the instructions to try and speed things up, I do believe they're working on that. And I think we should give them time to do that.
I appreciate that, and I agree with you, John. I just want to set the community's expectations of that request. Improvement could be improving review times by 1 day. That's an improvement, but doesn't move the needle. And my opinions and your opinions and everyone else's opinions up here on what those expectations are may not be aligned with what the community's expectations are. I fully stand to be proven wrong here or proven right here. I don't know. Maybe the community is tolerant of a simple building permit for a new house taking 16 months or more. I don't really know. I don't find that acceptable, but maybe the majority of the community does. So that's why I think that, again, this warrants some very specific digging for community sentiment.
Like I said, I'll have more conversation with Sarah around the survey and what it looks at. I'm more interested in feedback on the broader level of satisfaction, but when it comes to like how many months do you think it should take for somebody to get a building permit, I don't know that that's the kind of question that I would put on a survey like this, but I'll dig some more and get more information. Sarah said that we have a few weeks for.
No, we plan to be, like, we have a week or so. I need to be,
Wait,
I
this
need
month?
to,
You meant
like,
this month?
I mean, we are finishing this
Couple
up.
days.
There's just a bit of room. And, you know, right now I have 3 of you that said you're not interested in one from the council table. I will easily fill those with ones that have been recommended by departments. I was reserving some space in case the council wanted to exercise that opportunity.
Sam?
I was just wondering, does everyone that gets a permit or applies for a permit, do they have a way of providing feedback to ComDev? Can we send people that are applying for permits a survey to do from that rather than send it in this survey?
So those are really, that's, for example, what you're talking about is stakeholder engagement, that second piece I was talking
Yeah.
about. This one is more community sentiment and why there are asking for general impression questions in the sentiment survey. So I don't know if how they are doing it or if it's by randomized pool. I'll have to follow up because I don't see Bonnie here. How they bring that feedback. I don't know that it's every single applicant is asked that or whether it's a randomized pool to provide feedback back.
Okay, well, it might be.
So for example, sometimes not every patient at the hospital gets a follow-up survey. Perhaps it's only a randomized sample of 10% of the patients within a certain time period.
Well, not everyone needs to respond, but I feel like it'd be useful to know if people are disgruntled or not and as they go through the process, or maybe they can lay praise, which would be nice to hear too.
Do we engage that? Do we do a stakeholder survey?
Yeah, I just mentioned we have a third party under contract that is providing those services under the direction. You might want to review the info-only memo that was put out towards mid-March. It's about, 10, 12 pages long that goes in pretty significant detail on what all the activities are in this area.
All right. At this time, we're not hearing support for a question around permit timing. And we have interest if there are questions around satisfaction levels for service from that department in this survey.
Sure, there's that and about 15 other departments we ask for.
So that level of survey is, but not months or time on permits. All right. Any other questions there, you guys?
So the last thing I have for you is just, I am working with the chamber on a summary report from the Sister Cities Business and Government Exchange that occurred earlier this month, and we'll share that with all of you once we get it wrapped up.
Thank you. Any other comments, Sarah?
No, thank you.
Thanks. Any board reports? Any board meetings over the last week? John?
Had a CoA board meeting last week, and not a lot happened, but CoA is meeting with the Colorado Energy Office to learn more about the Coal Basin Development Committee update. Also, the 30th anniversary of CoA will be celebrated with a bash at the new Buttermilk Electric Building on August 14th. I think the ski company is going to be obviously participating in that as well. Also working on a new board member handbook as the board changes into non-elected official board. And let's see, Elise Hoddle has moved off from being an elected official in Basalt, but she's going to be a citizen representative on CoA as we go forward. Financials look good, and there's talk about joining a group that's looking at electrification of all schools up and down the valley, and they need 10 different schools to be eligible for that grant. And that's all I've got.
Thanks, John.
If I can chime in on that, I attended that meeting. It was the first time in about a year that I've been to the CoA meeting. It was nice touching bases with everybody. And I think it's important to note that what John said, that moving off as an elected official, but being a member at large gives an opportunity for all people to really be board members, and that really a emphasis was on for new board members to be focused on Eagle County finance, development, and human resources, and that the new direction for CoA for funding is fee for services. So as some of the projects that have been covered under CoA from REMP funding, it'll probably be coming out of the same pocket, but it'll be billed out as fee for services instead of a grant to CoA, then CoA giving away the services, and particularly mentioning energy audits for all of Apsha housing was done free of charge to the client in Apsha, but it was really funded by the REMP fund. So maybe in the future those will be there'll be fee for services, and I don't know how it'll work out, but it's kind of like taking money out of one pocket, putting it in another, and doing the same thing, just structuring it a little bit differently.
Thank you. That'll bring us down to our consent calendar this evening. On the consent calendar, all we have is the draft minutes of March 12th. Any questions there, or I'd take a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote for the consent calendar, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes?
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
And yes. Just gonna go really slowly. Actually, our next items are first reading of ordinances, but these have been noticed at 5 PM. Their required noticing is 15 days, so we're going to honor those at 5 o'clock. We have got 4:42 right now. I think that would mean that we'd take an appropriate recess right now,
You can take a recess.
and we will be back at 5 PM.
It's not acceptable to have the presentations done ahead of time and the ordinances themselves not read until 5?
I would suggest not, just because of the way the notices have gone. Theoretically, it might be okay with the supplemental budget, but given how we notice these matters at being heard no earlier than 5, I would suggest we wait until 5. That would be considered with consistent with the published notice, especially for the land use items. So I would recommend just a brief recess until 5 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
All right, we will take a 17-minute recess. We'll be back at 5 sharp. Thank you. Thank you and welcome back, everybody. This is the second half of our regularly scheduled meeting for April 23rd, 2024. And this brings us down to first readings of ordinances. Our first one is ordinance number 4, spring supplemental.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me for first reading of the 2024 Spring Supplemental Budget. In addition to the memo and exhibits that were shared with Council, I wish I had actually included this visual graph in there because I think it really tells the Spring Supplemental story. The purpose of the Spring Supplemental, as a reminder, accomplishes 3 main things. It's to true up revised beginning fund balance to match our pre-audit financials. So on the far left of the chart is what we presented in the fall when the 2024 budget was approved as beginning fund balance. The first blue bar shows the increase in additional revenue over our 23 fall forecast and then unspent 2023 budget appropriation. The next piece, the first orange bar coming back down in this waterfall, are the requests for carry forward. So Colorado state law requires us to reappropriate annually for any carry forward projects that did not complete the prior year. So these are our one-time operating and capital projects that we are formally asking you to reappropriate into 2024. The kind of 3 smaller slivers are new requests that were not part of our original 2024 budget, departmental savings, having that piece approved. Technical adjustments have all come to council and been approved, about $7 million since the fall approval. So those are items that have already come before council and been approved. And then finally, the third piece, next to last little blue sliver, is additional revenue in 2024 forecast that was not part of the presentation in the fall. The bulk of that is just the timing and the Burlingame 3 units coming forward into 2024. And that brings us to the last bar of our projected ending 2024 balance. So you can see from the original appropriation on the far left with all the ins and outs brings us about 45 million higher is where we're projecting that our fund balance for the city will end in 2024.
Is that the general fund or all the funds combined?
All the non-component funds, so all the city funds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask it a different way? What does it exclude?
The APSHA funds,
Okay.
Truscott.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is first reading. Are there any questions?
Stop there if you want.
I just have a request for second reading. That
Yes,
you have
absolutely.
just a brief, for the public, a brief explanation of the carry forwards as it budgets and multi-year projects as it relates to municipalities.
Absolutely.
I likewise have some items for second reading on Exhibit D, 2024 capital carry forwards. This, unless I missed something in how I printed this, let's see. I'm not sure exactly what this table that I'm looking at is called, but 2023 and 2024 project funding increases, I think it is. There's a few items that caught my attention on here, and I'd like some more information on them, and I did not see any sort of write-ups on these specific items, so if I missed these, apologies, but would like some additional information and discussion on them. The first one, engineering.
Excuse me, Bill, could you reference that on our packet so I can be on the same page?
Yeah, I printed it, so I don't have the page number, but Exhibit D, I think it is page 1, 2, 3, 4, page 5 of Exhibit D, once you find Exhibit D. And the table seems to be called 2023 and 2024 project funding increases. So first one I'd like to have some more information on is the EV charging stations installations. $129,000 additional funding requested on a original budget of $120,000, so more than a 100% increase on those. Would like to understand which specific chargers those are, why the increase. Second one, Heron Park bathroom, original project budget $569,000, requesting an additional $135,000 and change, bringing it to $705,000. I would love to see bathrooms there, but those are some awfully expensive bathrooms. Thirdly, I don't really know what the public corridor and gallery implementation project is at all, so would like to understand what that one is and where that applies to. And lastly, Puppy Smith switch station upgrade, original budget $450,000, now requested to be $1,150,000, $700,000 increase requested in 2024. So would also like some more information there.
Absolutely. Heron Park and Puppy Smith both have come to council and been approved since our original fall budget. So those two items have come to you in the last few months, but I will bring kind of a detailed summary of each of those that were listed.
We'll just pull the packet. We'll reissue the memo that was used when council authorized the projects. So those are technical adjustments to meet your expectations and contracts you already approved.
I understood on that. Obviously, seeing it in this format jumped out at me, but I think it would be good to understand how we ended up where we are on those two items. Thanks.
Thanks, Phil. Any other requests? I could take a motion to read.
I move we read, is it Ordinance 4
Yes.
of 2024?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote for reading of ordinance number 4, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes.
Ordinance number 4, series of 2024, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Aspen, Colorado, appropriating an increase in 1, the 2024 municipal budget, and 2, the 2024 budget for Truscott Phase 2 Affordable Housing Fund, which is a component unit fund of the City of Aspen, and authorizing appropriations pursuant thereto.
And I could use a motion.
I move that we adopt Ordinance 4, 2024 on first reading.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote for ordinance number 4 on first reading?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
See you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Matt.
The next item that we have for first reading is ordinance number 5. This is from the Aspen Institute. PD amendment for temporary structures.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may, I just want to introduce to you this evening, first of all, Ben Anderson, Community Development Director. Just want to introduce to you Sammy Montalto. She's been with our department pushing a year now. I think this is our first presentation to you this evening, so with that, I'll turn things over to Sammy.
Break a leg, Sammy.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, bear with me. I am nervous. Okay. Well, I was going to introduce myself, but he got that covered. So tonight, I'm here to start the conversation about Aspen Institute's request for a minor PD amendment to erect temporary structures. Starting with a quick summary, since last year, staff has been working with reps at the Institute to memorialize their annual use of tents on their property for various events, including the largest, which is the Ideas Festival. This application is being processed as a minor PD amendment as opposed to a temporary use request, and this is largely due to the Institute's status as a PD, obviously, as well as their desire and staff's desire to efficiently grant them annual approval for temporary structures without needing renewals from staff or council. With this approval, they will be required to pay their affordable housing mitigation fee upon the issuance of their first tent permit for each year. The largest event that they host is the Aspen Ideas Festival. Throughout the duration of this festival, 14 different tents will be up for a total of over 26,000 square feet of temporary structures. On the left side here, you'll see a summary of the major tents that will be utilized for the festival, and next to it is a map of where each tent will be located on the property. The only other couple of events that they have planned require one tent each and are much shorter in duration. Both of these smaller tents are held in the Marble Garden, which you can see on the left side there on the map. And for staff recommendation, first, staff has made the determination that the events hosted by Aspen Institute are beneficial to the community without being overly disruptive to the surrounding neighborhood. And second, our temporary use code does state that council approval is required for temporary uses beyond 14 days per year. So with all this in mind, we recommend approval of Ordinance 5, Series of 2024. Since this is first reading, I would recommend approval to continue to second reading on May 28th for a public hearing.
Bill?
Great job, Sammy, thanks.
Thank you.
Confirming, this is conceptually the same thing that we did for St. Regis recently, right? Thanks. More specifically to this application, are any of the tents that are currently contemplated for use and the locations for those tents materially different than what they have used historically?
No, granted, I was only here to see last year's Ideas Festival, but this seems to match up with what they proposed to me last year. And same thing, they only asked for, I think, a total of 48 days last year, which is what they're asking for this year. So I think it's all pretty predictable.
Great. And if we approve this, do they have the latitude to put a tent in a new location that wasn't contemplated under this approval or wasn't used historically?
In the ordinance, we did not specify locations. We just specified the size and the number of days. We could potentially add that in, but usually, like, when I look at most of the tent permits being in zoning, so I will check to make sure none of the locations look funny or off or in a bad place once they come in for permit, if that makes you feel more comfortable.
Thank you. I'm wondering, just given the specifics of this site, how big it is and how many environmentally pristine or sensitive or special places on their property exist. I'm not suggesting anyone might try to do this, but just as a CYA, I'm wondering if we might want to either exclude certain areas as a protection or designate certain areas where they are permitted to use tents.
I see what you're saying. At the Little Nell or at Gondola Plaza, we have a map of, like, this rectangle is where you're allowed to put a tent, so we could possibly put something together for second reading for that.
I think that might be smart. And again, given how big it is and how many opportunities exist compared to, like, the St. Regis, there's really only a couple spots you could put a tent of any significant size. Here, there's a lot of opportunities, and some which I don't think people would be very excited about seeing a big tent in for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, the landscape architecture, we'd like to keep that safe and sound, I agree.
Or some of the meadowlands that have a lot of brush in them and stuff, like if someone went in and cleared that brush to put up a tent, I don't think that's a great thing. I think it's beautiful because it's sort of wild. So, yeah, I think it might be a wise idea to put some parameters in there. Thanks.
Will do, thank you.
Sam?
And off of that, this was approved last year, it might be approved this year. This is in perpetuity, right? Like, it's not gonna come back to us again next year, if I'm reading this correctly?
Yeah, so this is the first year we're actually doing this for the Institute. They have not had a temporary use approval from council in the past. So, yeah, the goal with making it a PD amendment is, we know that they're going to be doing these events every year because they have been doing them every year. So I think we'd all like it to be memorialized, and so you guys won't have to sit here and listen to me do the same thing over and over again every year.
Yeah, well, you were great at it, so no worries on that. But I mean, if it's the same thing every year, and once again, to Bill's point of like having the proper parameters so that if we are doing something in perpetuity, that it's exactly what we want. So thank you.
Fair enough, yeah.
Any other questions or requests for information for second reading? I take a motion to read.
I'll make a motion to read ordinance number 5, series of 2024, Aspen Institute Plan Development Amendment for Temporary Structures.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please, for reading of ordinance number 5?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes.
Ordinance number 5, series of 2024, an ordinance of the Aspen City Council approving a minor amendment to a plan development for project review, growth management review, and commercial design review to accommodate seasonal structures at 845 Meadows Road, legally described as Lot 1A, the Aspen Meadows subdivision, according to the Aspen Meadows final SPA development plan and final subdivision plat recorded June 24th, 1992, and Plat Book 28 at page 5 as reception number 340938, and First Amendment to the Aspen Meadows final SPA development plan and final subdivision plat recorded December 17th, 1992, and Plat Book 30 at page 17 as reception number 351951, amendment recorded April 18th, 2005, and Plat Book 72 at page 68, an amendment recorded April 11th, 2006, in Plat Book 78 at page 35, an amendment recorded March 9th, 2017, in Plat Book 118 at page 85, as reception number 636682, County of Pitkin, State of Colorado.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 5, series of 2024.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Can I ask one more question?
Yep, please do.
I'm sure it's in the packet, but I'm forgetting right now. What are they doing for affordable housing mitigation for this project, if you know what they're actually doing to mitigate?
So I crunched the numbers, and I have a table in the ordinance that has the total with all the tents, and I gave them the same thing that I think you guys did with St. Regis. I cut 14 days off of each tent, so they're only paying for beyond 14 days for each tent, depending on the square footage of the tent.
So a fee in lieu.
Correct.
Situation.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Motion to approve on first reading, anybody?
I made that motion.
Did we?
already, and it was
Oh, that was
seconded.
discussion?
Yeah.
Could we have a roll call vote for ordinance number 5 on first reading, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Sammy. Good job.
Our next first reading is ordinance number 6, Burlingame Early Childhood Education Center reviews.
Awesome. Good evening, City Council, Mayor Tory. I am Jeff Barnhill, City Planner. Today, we are doing first reading of Burlingame Early Childhood Education Center, major public project, plan development amendments, growth management quota system, transportation and parking management, a lot of reviews on this one. Here's a little graphic of the site location. As you can see, phases 1, 2, and 3 of Burlingame. And then this is the precise site location. This project is located in the public zone district with a PD overlay. Lot Park C, lots 3 and lots 4 are all vacant lots currently. Lot Park C does have an existing trail running through the lot that links up to a shared use trail. That will be rerouted in this project. As you can see, there's the Burlingame ECE. It has playgrounds for each age group of children. You can see the 41 parking spaces on site just here, and then 5 on-street parking spaces are proposed as well. And yeah, the applicant proposes an infant preschool early childhood education center with a gross floor area of 15,263 square feet and a maximum height of 39.5 feet. The development will accommodate roughly 94 children and have a projected staff of 24 employees. The development, again, includes playgrounds for each age group of children. And again, the development will require that the trail on this property is realigned. Staff recommends that council approve the ordinance on first reading and set a public hearing date to review the application. Here is the proposed motion. I'm happy to take any questions, any concerns, any comments to be addressed at second reading.
Bill?
Thanks, Jeff and Ben. A few questions.
Sure.
2 questions. And I don't think I saw this in the packet materials, but if it's in there, I apologize. Is there any kind of recent study that justifies the demand side for this facility? And I know this is not really a community development type of question, but just want to understand and make sure that we are building this to satisfy quantified demand.
So I'm going to take that one. The short answer is that the last study we attempted was really skewed by COVID. So what the council has directed, this project is now in year 3 of getting to this point, and directed to get the site ready for development because it provides the best opportunity for public-private partnership and grant funding potential. So this is getting the site fully ready by getting it through entitlements that once demand is induced, that it can go ahead and proceed with development at that time. So that's why we checked in with council. Council said to go ahead through the step of entitlement, and then we're going to take a pause with those entitlements and hope for there to be some market correction. We're seeing it some with facilities that are opening in the mid and lower valley. But 3 years ago, we had evidence that suggested that this was needed. I would say it's softened since then.
What is that evidence from 3 years ago?
Yeah, that included taking a look at voluntary information reported by every child care operator in Pickens County about capacity and wait lists.
Is there any
as well as looking at birth rates, as well as some surveying that was completed. So, right, we were not directed to do a full analytical, statistically valid assessment, but back at that time, we were also seeing a lot of transition and closure of facilities here in Pickens County. And fortunately, through the good work of Pickens County and our Kids First team here at the City of Aspen, we've been able to bring in new providers to some of those spaces, which could delay the need to construct this facility.
Yeah, if there's a summary of some of that information from 3 years ago, I'd love to read it. And to be clear, I'm acutely aware of the challenges with childcare. I'm supportive of the City of Aspen's role in helping. But the last thing I would like to see happen is us spend a ton of time and money on constructing this beautiful facility and there be a lack of demand to fill it. So I need some more confidence that the demand exists today before, certainly before funding this project. I might be able to get comfortable with approving the entitlements, given all the work that's gone into it and the additional approvals that would have to come beyond just this.
So can I address those? You know, a few years ago, we did all these studies, and it became evident that it's a really dynamic, because people will get on wait lists for multiple places, and then the next year they may not be in the toddler, they might be in pre-K. So it changes every year, and there sometimes are duplicates when you start looking at wait lists. So it's a really fluid situation. So I agree that we need to have an analysis or some understanding of what the demand is, but their challenge is trying to figure out at a point in time, and if we design something now, and when it's ready, those numbers could be skewed because of all kinds of different things. But yeah, what you're asking for, I think, is really valid. We need to have those numbers. And just as we went through this, we've been working on it for 2 or 3 years. And Sarah, are we at schematic design or construction drawings? What we're trying to get at a point so we can build by a single approval. We can ask for grant money if it's available. And to get, it's like federal money is available for shovel-ready projects. And if you're not to a point on your development that you can say, well, we're ready to fund this next year, if we have to go through another 1.5 years to get entitlements, then we might not be getting federal funds that may be available. So if Sarah could remind us where we are on this, we've funded and agreed to a level of development and schematic or design so that we could get the entitlements, but have stopped short of issuing funding or asking for funding, and how that funding would be gained, whether it would be a bond or whatever. But just to remind us where we are on this process.
We're at the entitlement stage, and that there's been no direction to move beyond this step of the decision that's before the council now. So what will happen with entitlement is getting it through final recording, and then we will be have the project at a place of readiness when demand comes forward. That's really the intent, is we're setting conditions. You have to do schematic to get to entitlement. That was done some time ago and reviewed by this council several months ago, if not a year ago. Might have even been the last council.
And once we have entitlements, how long would it take before we'd be ready to, we could get federal grants at that, or we could get grants at that point?
I've got no direction to figure out a funding plan for development of this project. I was instructed just to get it through the entitlement process and continue to watch market conditions. And when I felt like data was showing that needed to come to council conversation, is to let you know and move forward from there. Regarding federal funding, it's congressionally directed spending that we've been going after. We actually declined going after it this year in what we submitted for congressionally directed spending because we knew demand was softening with the number of facilities that have either opened throughout the valley or that have been stabilized with the wage enhancements. I'll go back to the number one issue I have with constructing this facility is actually being able to staff it and the staff having housing. I think that's going to be the bigger hurdle than having children to fill it. And the building is also designed to not be filled day one with 94 students and 24 staff, so it can be phased based upon what that demand looks like.
And just as a recap, I know that we've gone through funding for planning, and we were at a point where we wanted to have workforce housing available on site, and the cost of that was so prohibitive that we didn't pursue that. We just focused on the early childhood education / childcare aspect of it, and because the workforce housing to supply the housing for people that would work here was just so expensive. So we've looked at that.
Okay, my second request, would love to see any information you have on cost estimates, schematic level cost estimates for this particular proposal. I don't think I saw any of that in the materials. Don't need to get into that tonight, but would love to see that, please. And lastly, again, we can do this on second reading, but I personally would like to have a conversation about employee mitigation requirements for this application, and I'm interested in contemplating a reduction of those requirements. Thanks.
Thank you.
Other questions, requests for information? Sam?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering, so it sounds like the affordable housing mitigation's going to happen using city-owned units. I was wondering how many units we have available for the 15.6 FTE requirement, and how many, and then what we will do with the rest.
That's up to you and how many you want me to buy, council.
But it sounds like we already have some that haven't been.
Have that can be counted for mitigation purposes
Yeah.
because we have in surplus of what we've been required to mitigate. We have more units than we have been required to mitigate over time. So we have a surplus.
I was just
We're
wondering
just
how much
saying
that
you
surplus
can-
is.
But isn't it like, we'd have to go back and look at the numbers. The surplus is actually pretty high compared to what our required mitigation on our projects has been over the years. So there's quite a bit of room there in terms of meeting mitigation requirements if the council chooses to use this as the approach. So for example, just this council, I think, is about 3 more units in the last year.
And you'd have to fully deed restrict those units to take advantage of that mitigation?
It's,
So,
Jump on.
to give a little bit more color to this, I think, this is an essential, what we think would be an essential public facility. We've recommended that. Planning and Zoning Commission agreed with that recommendation. And with that, then the next choice is yours. We've identified the sort of FTE requirements, under just a kind of straight calculation of FTE requirements. But I think, as is the case with all essential public facilities, it's one of the important parts of council's discretion on this topic, of whether or not, what the appropriate mitigation is. It could be 0, or it could be 100%, or it could be 65%. And then the method of mitigation, I think, is also to council's discretion. You could require the city to drop credits, on this project. You could require a fee in lieu to the 150 fund. But I think what has been done previously on other city projects is to recognize, the city's work in the units out of the 505 fund towards providing the mitigation for essential public facilities, whether they be this building or, other city facilities as they've expanded.
Yeah. I guess and this is a concern about any of these affordable housing mitigation fees, and we have projects in the pipeline, it's just that if we're using units that already exist, they probably are already housing other people, meaning it's mitigation of some variety, but also where all these childcare providers are supposed to live. So that's just like where I am just like thinking about this whole process.
I think it's a fair question, and I think it's true of the Affordable Housing Credits program similarly, where you have projects that are built, and those projects are, meeting some future demand for mitigation. And there's been a critique of that program as well. So I think the timing of the provision of those units and how the mitigation, I think that's certainly a topic for your consideration.
Yeah, and it's just like open-ended to what would make sense to get more units as quickly as possible to be able to house childcare workers that would work here. I guess I jumped into a question, but I did want to make a statement that I really appreciate all the work that Kids First has put into this. I very much trust their judgment, and for all the studies that I know I'd love to look at too. I know that they do incredible work on this. I was wondering, and this might be a Kids First question, why there's nearly 4 employees for every one kid, there's 4 employees, or for every 4 kids, there's 1 employee. Thank you. And that is just something that I think would be beneficial to all of us, but especially to the community, because it really does blow my mind that we're talking about like 94 kids, but 24 employees, and trying to solve a problem, but kind of adding to it while doing that. And I think that explanation would be very, very helpful to everyone involved. And then the last question I had about this was, I was kind of curious, and I know it's not exclusive to this, but I was wondering if we know like how many people under a certain age, 18 or 12, live in the Burlingame neighborhood, and how this might directly benefit them, because it could be a missing link to a very family-oriented neighborhood, and that's sort of like a nice and warm thought as this potentially gets built, to understand how many kids it might directly serve that live literally next door to it. It might help our workforce, where you can drop your kid off at this facility before work, or have them have after-school sort of things, and really help our workforce in that way, especially for those directly that live right in Burlingame.
Excuse me,
So
Sam,
there-
could I get clarification on that? I'm not sure I understood for the people that live in Burlingame, 1, 2, or 3, you're asking for what age groups?
Great question. I guess if you could do 18 and under would be great,
But
but
this facility will only be serving children 5 and under, 6 and under, 5 and under?
it can't function as, that's a great question. It can't function as like a after-school activities place as well or anything like that, because I feel like it should.
At this time, the space is not designed that way. There's very specific state requirements for the design of child care facilities. It doesn't mean that a future amendment couldn't be made to do that.
Okay.
The other thing that I would just say with this is that the short answer to the staffing question is meeting state ratio requirements as well as quality requirements and the redundancy required to meet those.
I
pretty-
figured it was an answer like that, but I still thought it'd be
We can give
better
you the
explained.
detailed ratios in the follow-up memo that's required, which creates that generation.
Yeah, so I guess the number of kids that meet the criteria to be in this early childhood center, because like I said earlier, it'd be nice to know how many families could directly benefit from this facility being right at their doorstep as they are a part of our workforce and community.
Yeah, so there is some of that data. I don't have it off the top of my head, but it is in there in some of the massive amount of documents for this project, but we'll definitely have that for you at second reading.
Cool, thank you so much.
Any other questions or requests for information for second reading?
And here.
Take a motion to read.
I'll make a motion to read ordinance number 6, series of 2024, Burlingame Early Childhood Education Center, major public project, plan development, and related reviews.
Seconded.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote for reading of ordinance number 6, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes.
Ordinance number 6, series of 2024, an ordinance of the Aspen City Council approving a major public project review, a plan development, project review, and detailed review, growth management review, commercial design review, parking and transportation review, subdivision boundary adjustment, and rezoning for lots 3, 4, and Park C Phase 2, Burlingame Ranch Affordable Housing Filing Number 1, Final Subdivision Plat, Second Amendment, according to the plat thereof recorded April 9th, 2013, in Plat Book 102 at page 69, County of Pitkin, State of Colorado.
Thank you very much.
I move we approve ordinance 6, series 2024 on first reading.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote for ordinance number 6 on first reading, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose? Mayor Tory?
Yes.
On the next one, I'm conflicted. I did have one thought. Jim, should I and could I vote on the applicant that I'm not conflicted on, or because these are batched together, should I?
Because they are batched together, I think it is appropriate for you to recuse yourself from the whole process.
Great.
And under our code, with the declaration of that conflict, section 2.02050 does require you to absent yourself from the room.
I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to come back. Thanks. See y'all.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Guth, before you leave, I was going to make some general statements that you might be interested in listening to before we get to the actual case, just about this topic, sort of in general.
okay with it, I'm sure.
If you're making a statement and he's just listening, sure.
It's just a statement
Not related to
talking
his
about where we
business.
are on this topic, because, I do think there's been some background to this topic, and we're going to be probably in front of you in the near term with some additional requests sort of in this line. I think all of you are aware that we've got several projects that are sort of in the pipeline that are approved affordable housing credits projects. Some of them have, been on the vine for some time now. But about 2 years ago, we came to a pretty clear understanding that the credits market itself was not particularly liquid. There are unextinguished credits out in the market, but they're in the hands of folks that are anticipating using those credits for projects that have approvals. And kind of seeing that situation a couple years ago, we put together the streamlined process that's in front of you this evening to try to do two things. One, be true to the code and the process that was established to essentially protect the Affordable Housing Credits Program from fee in lieu submission rather than credit submission. But also just to acknowledge that, you know, we have by right projects that are going through building permit that would otherwise be approved that are, you know, being delayed or are unable, you know, because they're unable to find credits. And so we put this process together. We had several requests a couple of years ago, but it's been 2 years since we've had any additional requests until the two that are under consideration this evening. And we'll have another batch to you in May. Again, another set of you know, projects that are going through building permit review that are unable to sort of identify credits for extinguishment. You know, we have done what we can within the confines of the land use code to expedite this process. I think these two cases this evening, probably roughly, and I'd have to look at exactly timelines, but probably in the six-week time frame to get them through Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation and then to you for your consideration. I'm not suggesting that's not a significant amount of time. There was a little bit of process involved with that. ComDev and the City Attorney's Office have been sort of looking at the code, looking at the situation, trying to find a even further sort of expedited process. Just to acknowledge that it's likely a couple of years before we've got another, you know, supply of credits that are going to be coming forward following certificate of occupancies being issued for projects that may be on their way. So anyway, you're going to see another request very similar to this in a couple of weeks, again in batched format. But I did want to let you know that both Community Development and the City Attorney's Office are trying to find a resolution to this with the acknowledgement for the next couple of years we're going to probably be finding ourselves in this situation until the credits market opens back up. So I just wanted to give a little bit of that update and background. We certainly understand the nature of this and also are not wanting to you know, abandon the Affordable Housing Credits Program with a code change that gets rid of the fee in lieu request, the council requirement that we currently have, because we think that's important if the credits program is going to continue to be successful. So with that was just my general comment. I'm happy to answer any broad general questions before we get to the specific case in front of you.
Yeah, just to be clear, so what we're voting on tonight is just for 433 Gillespie and 911 Waters?
Two projects.
Thank you.
Bill gets hall pass.
All right, this is an action item. Do you have a presentation for these? Okay.
Brief.
Brief.
We like brief.
All right, City Council and Mayor Tory, good evening. I'm Sophie Varga, planner with Community Development. So tonight we have a request to pay required affordable housing mitigation via fee in lieu. This is for two specific projects. They both generated more than 1/10 of an FTE, 433 Gillespie and 911 Waters. They're both in the final stages of building permit review. As been noted, there were 6 batch requests in 2022. P&Z recommended approval of all of them, and council approved all of them as well. So, should I go through it? Okay, just double checking. So we thought we would take the opportunity tonight to just briefly touch on GMQS. It serves a variety of purposes. They're summarized on the screen. Big picture, it regulates growth and development so that the end result is in keeping with the goals and policies of the AACP. It also regulates development so that the city is balanced. This includes making sure that there are sufficient public services and housing for staff, and that development doesn't overextend to other resources. Finally, GMQS includes ways to create affordable housing for the employees generated by the actual development, such as construction workers. So tonight's hearing is focused on the final purpose, creating affordable housing for employees generated by development. There are a variety of ways that applicants can provide housing mitigation without going before a board. That includes paying fee in lieu for projects that generate a tenth of an employee or less. People could record a deed restriction either on a unit on the property or buy one within the infill area, or folks can extinguish a certificate of affordable housing credit. So as Ben noted, affordable housing credits are created when private developers create affordable housing, and the availability of the credits really depends on a variety of factors, such as if affordable housing has recently been built, how many other projects are in the pipeline that require mitigation, and we're here tonight because there's currently a shortage of those credits. So the process to pay fee in lieu for projects that generate more than a tenth of more than a tenth of an FTE is that staff provides recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, which in turn provides recommendation to council, and then council approves or denies the request. We went before P&Z last week, and they recommended approval to City Council. So there are 4 criteria for the request. They're on the screen. Staff has confirmed that there's an ongoing shortage of credits. We believe that the other by right options are not reasonable due to site limitations, and that we also find that the proposal furthers affordable housing goals. The payment will go directly to the 150 fund and towards funding near-term affordable housing projects such as the lumberyard. So staff recommends that City Council approve the request.
Thank you. Questions, comments, suggestions? Sam?
What happens if we deny? If these got denied, they were not allowed to do fee in lieu, what would happen?
It might be a question for the city attorney. You know, I think one of the things, no, not really? Okay. I think one of the reasons why staff, while there's still a process involved, one of the reasons why staff sort of propose this kind of facilitated, expedited process is we do think it's really important that we make sure that projects that are otherwise, compliant with both building codes and land use codes are allowed to proceed. If we use this mechanism to serve as an obstacle, and we're, stay steadfast to the idea that we need to be extinguishing credits as, the sole mitigation requirement, I do think it raises questions about, particularly the credits program broadly, and, the city of Aspen standing in the way of otherwise development that could proceed. And so I think it's important to us that utilizing this code-provided provision is an appropriate response to that dynamic.
I was, to be somewhat facetious here, it was designed as a mechanism to provide relief to someone in the event that the credit program was not available. If you were to determine that there were other alternatives, whether it's buy downs or credits are actually out there, then a denial may be appropriate under that circumstance. But I would recommend that there would be a finding that there were alternatives available to a project if you were contemplating denying the fee in lieu concept, because this is doing what it was designed to do, which is give projects a mechanism with which to move forward with their project, even though the credits had dried up.
Yeah. And I would respond, I fully agree. And the point, and I think you were trying to get this earlier, was is there a way to streamline this process so it doesn't have to come to us? Because it does just meet very black and white criteria and not opinions, but more or less facts.
Yeah. We're trying to navigate exactly what that path might be. Because of, I think, let's just say, the rigor of the code language around this topic, and I think the intention of that rigor when this was originally set up, it's I think Jim and I's kind of shared position that whether it's a temporary response that kind of streamlines that or something that's a little bit longer term, that it's probably going to require a code change to give some additional flexibility beyond what we've done.
I would be supportive of that, and I would ask my other council members if they would as well. Thank you.
Yeah, my comments on this are that, first of all, the fee in lieu is too low. It doesn't come close to supplying the housing that is needed to be mitigated for. I know we've been upping that value, but this is, fee in lieu is a last priority on supplying workforce housing mitigation for development. And I would encourage us to explore incentives for credit creations and also for including buy downs that creates zero construction addition to workforce housing units. And as it is now, I see no justification for denying these requests.
Comments?
Yeah, I think everybody knows I'm not a huge fan of fee in lieu, but I don't really see a path forward in these particular instances. And if planning and zoning voted to approve this and staff recommends approving it, I will vote to approve.
Thanks. We could take a motion.
Make a motion to approve resolution number 47, series of 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please, for resolution number 47?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben, thank you for the additional information.
Thanks, Opie.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Can we have a roll call vote for adjournment, please?
Counselor Doyle?
I'm a yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes. Thank you all. And thank you to GrassRoots as always. We will see you again in 2 weeks' time. All right. Thank you guys.